Let me know once you guys see my screen. So can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so today we'll start with configuration. So first I will create a legal entity and we will understand what are the steps that's required or what are the key areas to remember when you create legal entity. And then we create a few basic steps within GL, and then we will discuss different use cases within GL module. Okay, so the first step, no, step one. So the first step we're going to create would be legal entity. So we have to start with GL module, but before starting with GL module, we need to have legal entity in place, right? So that's why legal entity and number sequence. These are the first two setup that we're going to do. Both is part of organization and administration module. Once we create that, then we will come back to our GL module. Okay. So to create legal entity, so go to modules. Then here you will see organization and administration, organizations, legal entity. So this is a place where you create legal entity. One second. Someone has issued joining. Anyway, so this is a form where you see all the legal entities created. So when I enter legal entity, it's nothing but a registered company name and details that you're gonna fill here. Okay. So wherever the legal entity is registered, for example, we will take USA as an example, and that's where I'm going to create my legal entity. Okay, so click new to create a new legal entity. So here you can see name. Name is nothing but the registered company full name. Okay, whatever name you want to give. So let me take Fiscal Private Limited. So this is the name that I want to pick it. One second. Okay, so once you give the name, the next option you can see is a company code. So here
Hi, good
you
morning,
can
sir.
give good morning. So here you can enter 4-digit alphanumeric code. Okay, so this is basically will be decided by the client side. So we can tell them you give us the 4-digit code, however whatever the code they want. It's only going to include four. That's the max, and it's an alphanumeric code. So they can include numeric, they can include alpha, or combination of both. So for example, let's say WP1 or WPL1. So this is the name that I want to give. So I have entered company code as WPL1. So that becomes our company code. So once this is created, next is the country or region. So this is also very important field. And as you see here, these are the three mandatory field or basic field that's required in order to create a legal entity. So the next is the country or region. So this is selected based on the company the registration. So for example, if a company is registered in US, then you're going to select US. Let's say it has a subsidy companies in different countries. So each subsidy company has to be created as legal entity. Therefore, whichever country the subsidy company is registered, that address will come into picture for those companies. For a parent company, if that's the case, or even if it's a single company, wherever it is registered, that address you have to select. So let's say US. So I will select USA and click OK. So with those three information, my legal entity will be created. And as you see here, the code. So once my legal entity is created, by default, system will take me to this particular code. Now, why this is important? Because whenever you guys log in, make sure, okay, don't touch this. This is the one that I have. I will be using it. So you guys create your own legal entity for a practice. And whenever you log in, make sure you're in that particular company so that when you post a transaction or do any setup, it is impacted to that particular legal entity. So that's why it's very important to have a proper legal entity selected. So once you create a legal entity, now there are few fields which is important to keep in mind when a legal entity is created. The first and foremost thing to understand is the localized functionality. So what is localized functionality? As an example, if you take India and USA, just to compare, in India we have GST. whereas in US we have sales tax. Now, how does the system understand that for this legal entity I have to give sales tax setup, or for this entity I have to give Indian localization setup? It is based on the region that you select. Now, whenever you get a project, so the first thing as a functional consultant we're gonna do is to look if localization is available. When you say localization is available, that means that particular country should be available here. If it is not there, then you need to do a lot of customization to cater to that particular country, because whatever requirement of that country, if that country doesn't exist here, then you need to do a lot of customization to meet their government rules. If the country exists here, like US, Dubai, UK, or USA, all the localization is taken care by Microsoft. So you don't need to do much of customization. Obviously, customization would still exist based on the client requirement, but at least majority of the thing you don't need to customize it. It exists, and that's why this localized functionality is very important. So you can see there are different options. The first option it says is detect using company address. So this is the default one, and this is the one that we will always be selecting. When you select detect using company address, so you can see here in the address. So how did the system pick this address? When I created my legal entity, I selected the country USA, right? So by default, it has added one address, and the address is USA. So here, when I say detect using company address, my system understood that I have to use the USA address because that's the primary address. So by default, it's going to pick the primary address. So this is the USA address. So that way, system understand this particular legal entity is related to USA localization. Now, once this localization is selected and you start posting transaction, you will not be able to change. Right now, you can change it because we haven't posted any transaction. But once you post, you will not be able to change. Now, just to understand how this works, let me show few of the navigation. So currently, so I'm duplicating this particular screen. So this is in USA localization. So when I go to the other screen, let's check the complete form. So for example, I took tax as an example, right? If I scroll down, go to tax module. Now this particular form is loaded based on USA localization. Go to setup. Here you can see sales tax. Okay, that is because it's a USA localization and there is no withholding tax as well. Now let's come back here. As I told you, we are in the initial stage, so system will allow me to change it. So let me select India here. Now what happens? This particular legal entity will be loaded based on India localization. So let me again duplicate screen to see the Indian localization. So this I have not refreshed. So this would obviously be in the USA localization. Now if I go back here, as I told you, for India, the tax system is different. So you will not see that particular thing here, but at least you can differentiate. So if you go to under setup, you can see the difference here. So I have like 5 fields here, but if you come here, you can see so many fields because you can see withholding tax, you can see customs. This and all is required for the Indian localization. So that's why those fields here, but those fields doesn't exist here. The reason because that's not required for USA. Similarly, each country will have its own requirement, and based on the localized functionality that you're gonna select, system will load those information. So that's why this is an important field whenever you create a legal entity. Make sure this is properly selected. So the next option is another thing to remember is the language. So why is language required? Now, when you create a master data like the customers and the vendors, system has to default a particular language. So that has to come from here. So make sure you will select this as well. And the other advantage MSD has is you can have a local language. For example, if you take Mexico, Spanish, right? So users can select Spanish language. So the things will load in the Spanish. Like that, there are a lot of languages available to their comfort as per the user requirement. They can change those language. So this is the company language. So this will not there. But if you go to user option, let me go there. So yesterday we discussed the user options, right, in the preference. So here you have an option to select the language as well. So you can generally it will be English only, but in case if there are few users who doesn't understand English and want a different language, they have an option here. So Microsoft has created so many language. If that language is available here, only then you can use those language. So you can see there is Arabic, Egypt, Kuwait, Oman. There are different languages. So you can use those language for their benefits. Okay, so that's another thing to remember here. So then we have this financial consolidation process, which I will cover in the end. Then comes the address part. So this is just the basic address. If you want to add the complete address, you can edit. So once you edit, you will get an option to add the details, the detail address. When I say detail address, the pin code, then you have the street, city, state, county. So all of this information can be updated. Why this information is important? Because if the primary flag is enabled, you can have multiple address, but the primary flag can be enabled only for one address. So what is the purpose of this primary flag? When you enable this primary flag to yes, let's say I create a purchase order. There's an internal document, right? The company address is required. So system is going to pick address from this primary flag yes. So wherever the company address is required in the reporting side, by default, this address will be picked for those reports where the primary flag is yes. That's why only one address can be primary flag. The other address cannot be primary flag. Okay, so you can add all the complete address as well just to check it. So that's the address part. I think those two are the important information. So and after that you have like contact information. So you can add the email address, the phone number. Then you have the statutory reporting. So when I say statutory reporting, so there is no functionality as such for this. This is just the information that you can update within the system. Then you have bank account number. So when I say bank account number, let's say a company might have multiple banks, right? So which we will create in cash and bank management. So you need to default one bank for the company. Though I have two, three bank accounts, I need to default one primary bank account if required, not mandatory. You can select here. Right now, obviously, nothing will be there because we have not created any bank. So once we create bank in the cash and bank module, you can see the drop down will come here. So once you select that, everything will get updated automatically. So this is also not mandatory. Only when if it's required, you can add it. So after this, all the information that you see here, the registration number, all these details, it's based on the information perspective. So you just update here. There is no functionality. Before I go to dashboard, there is one more important field, registration IDs. So what is this registration ID? This is also important because when you have the primary address, for that address, you need to update the registration type. Now when I say registration type, so in India we have PAN number of a company, TIN number of a company, right? Similarly in US also, if there's any mandatory registration number that's required for a document, then you can update those registration number here. So I don't have those numbers now. So this would be required only for reporting, not otherwise. So that's where you update the company registration number. Okay. Then,
Sorry to interrupt, sir. I have a question.
yes,
Sir, apart from the primary address, we can add multiple addresses. So can you
correct.
please just demonstrate how we can add the multiple addresses? Like if I want to add
Just click
my
add.
site address.
What is that? Just see, click add here and keep on adding the address. Just click add the address. There is no much,
Okay.
uh, steps into it. That's it. You just add the address. You can
Okay.
see option here, no add. Click add and
Mhm.
add address. How many ever address you want, you can add it.
Okay.
Okay, so now if I scroll down here, the next option you can see is the dashboard image. So if you see the home screen, you will see a particular image, right? So that home screen image comes from here. So in case if you want to have a company logo here instead of this, from default you can change to logo and you can update the logo here. So whatever logo you update, so in the home screen, if I go here, so the image that you see here will come from there. So currently this is the image, right? So that will come from here. So you can update whatever the image you want to update. So then you have report company logo image. This is basically used by technical consultants because whenever you generate a report, I would want to see a company logo in the report, right? So they will update the company logo here, and from here, from the back end, they will pick it and add it into reports. So this information will be updated for report. Then after this, whatever information you have, it's all the tax registration number, tax information, 1099. It's all the information that you will update for information perspective, just to see those informations within the legal entity. Any questions? One second, guys. Hello.
Yes, Bharat. No questions as of now.
Hello? Hello?
Guys,
Uh,
give me 1 minute, please.
sure.
Give me 1 minute. Sorry, guys, I got a call. Sorry. Yes. So I was just asking, do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Jeff.
Okay. Go back to the screen. Go back to okay, where you have the localized region.
Hmm.
When you are creating a legal entity for client that live in the US, in India, in China, in Russia, so when you are creating this legal entity for all of them to view, will you be able to see, you see that their local area, or how is it going to be? Is it going to be a generic one that all of them will be
No,
able to
no.
access, or
Okay, I got it. So let's say parent
uh-huh,
company is in US. Okay,
uh-huh,
I have a subsidiary company, one in India
okay,
and one in China. Okay,
okay,
so what I will do, I will
hmm,
create three legal entities. Okay, so let's say this is WPL1,
okay,
then this will be WPL2,
okay,
and this will be WPL3.
okay,
Okay, so this localization is US,
hmm,
this localization is India, and for this localization is China.
okay,
So in that way, you have three legal entity, and each legal entity will have its own localization.
okay. Thank you. That's what I want to find out. Yeah.
Okay, so this is how we do it. And if you want consolidated report in the end, let's say you are a parent company and you want to see all the three legal entities transaction in one place, then you will create
Mhm.
one consolidation entity.
Okay.
This also I will cover in the end. Okay, so right, let's understand this, then we'll come to this consolidation.
Okay, it's okay. I just want to find out. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I think someone else also had some question. Right, all clear? Any question in this? Because this is the base. So you guys need to have an understanding of this before you start working on it. Okay, if
No
no
question,
question,
sir.
then I will move on. Okay, so the next step that we want to create would be number sequence. Any idea what is number sequence? Or what do you guys understand by number sequence? When you hear this, I'm sure some like Path or someone should know, right? So what do you guys understand by number sequence?
That's basically a sequence. Like suppose we have a purchase order number or sales order number, so we need to have that in some sequence, like maybe vendor or so we do assign some setups over there in numbers in parameters of concerned modules, and then we add the number sequences over there. So
Correct.
that's how
So
it
number
will
sequence will
generate.
come.
Yeah.
Correct. So using number sequence, it will generate, right? But what is number sequence? So number sequence is basically a unique record assigned to every or unique number assigned to every record we create. Whether you create master data, whether you create a transaction, each as should have its unique number, reference number, basically, right? You can call it as document number or reference number. And if you guys remember, when we used to study, we used to call it as voucher number, right? Each transaction will have a voucher number. Here also we have voucher number or journal number. So that number, that document number or reference number is called as number sequence. It is unique to every record we create. So in a very simple term, unique reference for every record that we create in D365. So number sequence is required. So when I say number sequence, this number sequence we can customize. When I say customize, not technically, functionally, we can have our own format for each kind of master data, each kind of transaction. So that part we will see later. So first, what we will see is how do you create a number sequence for every place or for every module. Later, we will modify it. Instead of customize, I think we will say modify it. So currently, let's say if I want to generate a number sequence, then again go to organization and administration. Okay. So here you can see number sequence, then again click on number sequence. So in the number sequence, so let's click generate. So when I click this generate number sequence, it will generate number sequence for all the modules wherever number sequence is required. Example, let's say if I go to accounts payable setup, each module in its parameter will have number sequence, which you guys will see later. This is just to show how it will reflect. So we will come to this later part. Okay. So in the number sequence, so currently, if you see the number sequence, it's blank like that. Go to any module, you will see the number sequence will be blank for my legal entity. So in order to create this number sequence, see, there are hundreds of number sequence required. So if you start creating manually, it will take a lot of time. That's why we use this generate option. So after this, what we will do, wherever the changes is required. Okay, so this is created. Next, you click on next. So wherever the number modification is required, that will be based on client again. So generally what happens, the client will come up and say, when I create vendor, I want it to start with V. When I create customer, I want it to start with C. This will always hang. So you guys have to wait. So I want to start the customers with C. And similarly for transaction also, for GL transaction, I want to start with GL. For invoice, I want a different format. For payment, I want a different format. You guys will understand what is this later. Okay. So in those cases, only we will modify the number sequence, which will be like 15 to 20 or somewhere around that. So instead of creating manually hundreds, we will automate it and only modify wherever it's required. Okay. So now you can see here, whatever area you can see here, no, by default, system is created for all the area. But if you observe the format, what is common here is that every format will start with my legal entity code. So that is how system will default it. So when you generate, it will always take my company code and it will default to all the number sequence. So that is why we will go and modify as and when required. So currently we will keep it this, we will modify when requirement comes up. Okay. So now let's go to the next. So you can see accounts payable as 58 number, receivable as 52. So each module you can see the number of, the number sequence that it has generated. Click finish, it will automatically update everywhere. So once updated, now if I go to that module, you can see the number sequence would be updated. So here we were before refresh, it was blank. Now if I refresh here, you can see the number sequence is updated. So like this, when you use that generate number sequence, it will update number sequence for all the modules wherever number sequence is required. So that's your number sequence setup. Okay. So once the number sequence and legal entity is created, those two are the basics, the initial step we need to do. Now we come to our GL module. So GL module, general ledger module, this is basically the heart and core of the finance. So why I would say that is because whatever setup we do here, it is connected to all the modules. Wherever you post finance, it can be AP, AR, fixed assets module, or it can be even the SCM module, where you have inventory transaction, inventory journal that you post. It is all connected to GL module. So understanding GL module is critical for implementing F&O. Whether you implement only finance, whether you implement supply chain, or whether you implement retail, whatever module you want to implement, you cannot implement without finance. And when you say finance, the first thing that needs to be properly configured is the GL module. So this is a very important module. So I will spend a lot of time on this module, and I would request you guys also spend a lot of time on this particular module initially to understand the basics, because without this, understanding the other modules will become difficult from finance perspective. So let's spend time on this, understand this thoroughly before we move on. Okay. So this is my general module. The first step. So here also, uh, now before I start with the GL module configuration, there is something called as global, and there is something called as legal entity specific. Okay. So when I say global and legal entity specific, so what do you guys understand by this? Okay, let me put it this. I'll see now and then I will ask question just to confirm that I'm audible, because sometimes I keep going on and the audience will not be there to listen. So that's why. So what do you guys understand by global and legal entity?
So basically, if we choose global and if we do something that will be applied to all the legal entities. And if you
Okay,
choose just the legal entity, it will be for that particular legal entity that we are dealing with.
correct. So that's correct. But the first sentence you said, if we choose. So do we have an option to select that is global or LE, or is it default by MSD?
It's default.
So it's default by MSD, right? We will not be saying this is the global, this is LE. So Microsoft has already defaulted whether it's a global or whether it's a legal entity specific. So when you create something under that is already classified as global, it will be global. You can restrict to your legal entity. That's a different thing, but it is a global setup. And when you create something related to LE, it will be legal entity specific. So now whenever I create anything going forward, right, we will have to understand whether it's a global or a legal entity specific. So that is also important to understand. As you said, when you say global, it can be shared between multiple legal entities within an environment. So I said that WPL1, WPL2, WPL3, right? So let's take fiscal calendar as an example. I will create one fiscal calendar. The fiscal calendar is a global setup. So I can use that particular calendar to all three legal entities. So I don't need to do the setup, repeated setups. Just do it once, assign to all the entities wherever it's applicable. Similarly, chart of accounts also. I'll create one chart of accounts and I will share it with multiple legal entities. So in that way, I will have consistency across legal entities. And that's why we have this global and LE specific setups. Okay. So the first one we're gonna check is fiscal calendar. So what is fiscal calendar?
Fiscal calendar is the financial year of a company that is being followed.
Yeah. So that's the financial year. So now generally what happens, obviously the country specific financial year would be different, right? For I think in US it's June to July, in India it's April to March. So country specific also will have a different financial year, but the company, considering its parent company and subsidiary company, can have a similar same financial year for all the legal entities. Okay, so that's basically financial year. So it again depends on company what financial year they want to follow. So whatever financial year they would say, we will only create that in the system. So to create a fiscal calendar, go to general ledger, go to calendars. So here you will see ledger calendar, fiscal calendar. Ledger calendar we will come later. So currently we need to go to fiscal calendar. So GL calendars, fiscal calendar. You can also see navigation here on the top. So I've enabled this. I think it will be enabled for you guys also. Sometimes you will see this will not be enabled. So in case if you want to enable this, let me just show that option. Just because when you guys start working for a company, sometimes you may not see this. So for that to be enabled, you have to go to system admin. Then there is something called as, one second, client performance option. So under setup, you can see client performance option. In the client performance option, you can see this legacy navigation bar. If this is no, then you will not see this navigation. If this is yes, only then you will see. So by default, it will be no. So if you guys want to see, you have to go to this particular setup and enable this. So this or all, you guys can make a note just in case if you need it, you can use it. Right now, I'm canceling it. So coming back here, this is a global form. So you can see all the calendars that is created for different legal entities will be available here. So let's create our own calendar. So to create a calendar, click new calendar. Then you can give a calendar name. Let's say WPLFY. You can give description, whatever description you want to. Now, start of fiscal year, end of fiscal year. As I told you, so this will be decided by client. So whatever they want to, they can decide. So right now, since we are in September, let me take September as my starting here. So it will be easy for us to post transaction. So once it starts in September, it has to end next year, August. That's my 12 months, right? August 31st, 2025. Okay, so that will become 1 year, what I've selected. So name, you can give whatever fiscal year name you want. Now length of period and unit. So this too is an important configuration. So here in the unit, you can see you have an option days, months, majoritarily used. Okay. So when I select months and enter length of period as 1, that means every 1 month system will consider as one period. So 99 or more than 90% company will use this setup. That is every month they want to treat it as financial one fiscal period. So why you want to have a monthly financial period is because you can have monthly closure. Like you can open a 1 month, post all the transaction to that particular month, another month end you close that particular month. So you go to next month. In that way, you can have a control over your financials. Instead of doing it yearly once, you can do it monthly once. So most of them will have monthly ones. Now, the other requirement that might come up would be, irrespective of the month, every 30 days, I'm going to consider it as one period. For example, there are months with 31 days, there are months with 28 or 29 days, right? So instead of having those inconsistency, every 30 days, I want to treat it as one period. So if that is the case, instead of month, you make it days, and here you can enter 30 days. So in that way, every 30 days will be treated as 1 month. So few will use this also. Majority will use monthly and few will use this option. So in this way, you can have both the options enabled. So depends upon the client requirement, you can use this option. So I will make it month and I'll say 1. So every 1 month will be created as period and click create. So once you click create, so you can see here my period is created. So you can see the start date and end date. So the first one is period 0. I will explain how many periods is created. So we created 12 months. So basically you will have 12 periods for 12 months. And additionally, you can see there is a closing and there is a opening. So whenever you create a fiscal calendar, it will create 14 periods if you're creating monthly. Okay. So every month is one period, 12 months, 12 period, one for opening, one for closing. That's because when I say opening, which will again, when we do year end, which we will do in the end, you guys will understand how the system will post opening transaction, how the system will post closing transaction. So then I will explain this, but just remember, system will create period 0 as opening, So even if you post transaction on September 1st, you can see here, it will go to period 1. So period 0, you will not be able to manually post for period 0, but system will, when you do year end close, system will automatically post for period 0. And similarly for period closer also, if you select the last day of the year, manually it will go to period 1. When system does the closing, only then those transaction will go to closing. So that way opening and closing for 2 and 12 periods for 12 months. So that's your fiscal calendar. Any questions?
Yes. Two questions. One is if you are talking of a global entity and it has operations in different countries using different fiscal calendar, how do we synchronize that one? Let's say Malaysia, US, China, they use different calendar. So if we're using a global entity, how do we go about that one? That's number one. Number two is if I want, this is 2024, 25. If I also want the next year, 2025, 26, how do we go about it?
So next year, okay, let me come this way. So now you want to create 25, 26, you can see a new year.
Yes,
Just click
yes.
here, it will automatically create. Just click create, it will create. I would have anyway covered this later. We need to create this. So you can see 25, 26 is created. Okay,
What
let
of
me
if
delete.
it's a leap year? Because in
Doesn't matter.
short here you
It
are
doesn't
copying, you are copying. Mhm.
see if it's leap year also it doesn't matter. No, what difference it will make? Instead of 28 days, it will pick 29 days. That's it. So there is nothing to worry about leap year. Okay. Where is my
The
fiscal calendar?
the dates will be different. That's
No.
my concern.
Why the
Mhm.
no the start date end date will remain same. How it will be different? So leap
The
year,
number of
you will have
days, the
February
number of days in
number
a
of
leap
days.
year.
Correct. Only for February it will increase. So my February start date will be 1st of Feb. Instead of 28th Feb, the end date will be 29th Feb. Just for that particular month, you have additional day and it will automatically take into picture. So there is nothing to worry for leap year. I think I deleted the calendar. Let me create it again. Contains. Yep, I have created. So let's say new, I created the calendar itself, I deleted instead of year. So WPL.
Financial year, FY.
Okay. So let me take September 2024,
August.
1st of September and 2025 August. Okay. So here, if you see, even if it's leap year, when you're creating the start of fiscal year, it will be September 1st. Your end of fiscal year is August 31st. Doesn't matter whether it's leap year or a normal year. Only in the month of February, which system will automatically take care. So you don't need to worry on leap year also. Just click create. So my calendar is created. And if you want to create a new year, you can see click new year. So if you don't want to use these dates, you can disable copy from, then you will get an option to enter your own dates. But if you want to
Oh,
create, then just use copy from. So ideally it will always be copy from last fiscal year, because once you decide you want to use, you will company will never change that, right? It will remain as it is. So that's your
oh,
one question, right? So the second question, when you said how do you manage globally? So generally what happens, this is from my experience I've implemented. So let's say in US I am following this September to August. Okay. Now when I have entity in India, I will follow the same September to August, because my parent company is following that. But for India local country requirement, let's say in India, I need April to March, right? Because this is my localization requirement. So I need to submit for government. So here what I will do, My fiscal calendar will be September to August, but I will run few reports from April to March and I will submit to government. For me, my parent company is important. Whatever parent company is following, the same I will follow here. So this is how we always implement. And even when I worked in end user also, this is how we used to do. So like when I was in Nike, we used to follow, even though in India, we used to follow June to July. We were not following April to March. That's my country's requirement. But still, we used to do June to July because you can run reports for April to March, submit to government. This is required only for submission. So you do that report outside, but your fiscal calendar would be same. So if you have 10 legal entities in 10 different country, ideally you will have one calendar following for all 10 countries. If you want to do separately also, it's fine. Then you can do here. Let's say September to August. Then here you can do April to March. Now, if you want to do consolidation, you will anyway map main accounts to main accounts. So you will not worry about fiscal calendar. That will not come into picture at all. But you have to treat two as a separate, like year end close, year end open. You cannot run it together. It has to be done separately. Though you are a global company, you will not be able to sync it because it's a different calendar. So you need to have one calendar, only then you can sync it in terms of running your reports or even running your year end close. You will not be able to do it together if it's a separate calendar. Ideally, I have not, I mean, people might do this, but generally they will have one calendar for all the localization or for all the legal entities. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear. It's clear. Yeah, it's my first experience about a global
Mhm.
entity. I didn't know about that one because looking at when it comes to setup and configuration of the entity in administration, there you have rows in the columns like exchange rates,
Uh,
uh,
hmm.
localizations, and so on. Yeah. Then how do you sync with the global? And I'm looking at that from the global entity context. You have working in India, you have China there, you have America. So how do you consolidate all those variables such as exchange rate, interest rate, and so on as you keep going? How do you do it if it's a
We
global?
will cover that. So we will cover that. See, we are only in the step of process of creating legal entity. When I come to
Okay.
transaction, see, we have different currencies. We have transaction currency, accounting currency, reporting currency, and then you have different exchange rates. So there is options to cover that. So when I come
Okay.
there, I will cover these things.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mm.
So that's the fiscal calendar. Any other questions? Is clear? Okay. So the next option that I want to cover is anyway currency only. So let's say global, sorry, currency. So I'm not covering exchange rate as of now. We'll only see currency. Okay. So currency, we guys understand that when I'm pushing transaction, whatever currency I want, I will use it. Okay. So now in MSD, we have three kinds of or three types of currency. So I want you guys to understand this clearly before we go for setup. So we have transaction or okay, before I go for, let's say there's a setup. So under setup, I have an option to default accounting currency and reporting currency. Okay. So I can default this to. Now, accounting currency is mandatory. That means when you create a currency and when you go to ledger setup, without accounting currency, you will not be able to complete the setup. System will not allow you to save. So this is a mandatory. Now, reporting is optional. Whether you want it or not, it's your choice. So this is the optional setup. Okay. Now, what is accounting currency and what is reporting currency? Accounting currency is basically your local currency. When I say local currency, whichever country you're registered. If you're in US, USD will be your accounting currency. If you're in India, INR will be your accounting currency. Coming to reporting currency, now it's an optional. So let's say this the company that we have created is in US. So I will select look accounting currency as USD. But my reporting currency, let's assume my head company is in a parent company is in India. Therefore, my reporting currency will become INR. It's an optional. If I do in the setup, then transaction it will come into picture. So let's say this is the local currency and this is the reporting currency. Now let's understand how things works. So this is the setup, right? Now let's come to transaction. Or let's say posting. I will tell you why I selected this. So in the posting, I will have three kinds of currency coming into picture. So one is transaction currency, one is accounting currency, and one is reporting currency. Okay. Transaction currency, for that particular transaction, whatever I select, that will become my transaction currency. Accounting currency will come from setup. So you can see this is my accounting currency. So whatever you have set it will come from there. Reporting currency also will come from setup. In case if you have done, it will come. If you have not done, it will not come. Now let's understand. So did you guys understand this concept? What is transaction accounting and reporting? Any question here? Okay.
Also,
So I assume you guys understood. Now let me ask question. So let's say I have transaction accounting and reporting. Okay. So let's assume this. I have done the setup. I have selected accounting currency as USD. I have not done any reporting currency. I will post a transaction in euro. So you guys understood the concept. So what will be my transaction currency?
That will be
that will
euro.
be USD.
Euro or USD?
Euro.
USD.
Euro. That's a
Okay.
transaction.
Okay. So someone said USD. Sorry, who said that USD?
Ravi.
Okay. So you said USD, right? So here in the setup, do I have transaction?
No.
No.
It's only accounting and reporting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So transaction, as I told you, when I'm posting a transaction, whatever currency I select, that becomes my transaction sign. So I am posting with euro. So my transaction currency will become euro.
Euro.
Okay. So what will be the accounting
US.
USD.
and what will be reporting?
Nothing. We have not selected anything.
We haven't mentioned reporting, sir.
So that will be blank because we don't have any setup. Now let's say I will have a setup of INR. Now in the same scenario, my if I post in euro, what will happen? Transaction will be euro, accounting will be US, reporting will be INR because my setup is there. Okay. So any transaction, any currency you post based on your accounting and reporting, it will convert using exchange rate. So exchange rate I will come later. Okay. Now, so let's say you have three legal entity: US, India, China. Okay. So we have ledger setup. That is where you assign the currency. So for US, accounting currency will be USD. For India, it will be INR. For China, it will be whatever this currency, Chinese yen, right? So now what happens? My account reporting currency for all three, I will keep one currency. Let's say INR. So then what happens? I can for when I open US, I can see USD as well as INR. When I open India, I can see this both. When I open CH, I can see this both. Now for when I do consolidation, I can use INR because that is common between all. So when I use INR, all this will come into consolidation entry. So this is how you will handle the global part. Jeff, this is how you do the currency. Able to understand this? Okay, so I will show how it's
Yes.
done in the system. So
No,
we will see. Yes, Jeff.
no, it kind of a little bit confusing here. When you can you go a little bit briefly?
Sorry, I am not able to understand you. Can you be little bit?
The ledger where you have a U.S.
Aha.
India, and you have a U.S. Yeah, can you go over the currency a little bit? How you came up with that currency? Yeah.
Okay, so we have something called as ledger setup. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I will anyway cover that. We have not reached this setup. So I think once I reach that setup, I will explain this again. So in the
Okay.
ledger setup is always legal entity specific. It is not a global. So we will have three different ledgers. So in each
Okay.
ledger, we have different currency assigned.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, I will cover this when I come to ledger setup. So ignore this part as of now. So you guys
Okay.
understood this one? Transaction accounting and reporting clear with
Yeah.
this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first I have to create currency. Currency is a global. So once you create currency, and one more thing to understand, whenever you see global, that means when you do that particular setup, it is not connected to your legal entity. You need to do a second step where you need to assign. Currently, I created fiscal calendar, but for my legal entity WPL, fiscal calendar is not yet assigned. Similarly, when I create currency, currency will also not be assigned to my legal entity. So that is one of global concept. So whenever you create that setup, you need to assign as well. For legal entity thing, anyway, it is specific to legal entity. So once you create, there is nothing like assigning. If you create, that is done. But for global, you need to create and assign. So right now I've created it. Let's create currency also. Assigning we will cover later. So now to create currency. So to create currency, generally what happens, Microsoft by default will give currencies. So if you go to GL currencies, click on currencies. Here you will see currencies. So what Microsoft will do, Microsoft itself will, whenever you deploy a sandbox environment, right? All this currency Microsoft only will give it. So you don't need to worry anything on that. So here in the currency code, you can see this is given by ISO, I think International Standard Organization. So this is all predefined. It's not like we will give different code for different implementation. No, this is always we're going to use International Standard Organization, which is common, irrespective of which country or which client you're doing. This will not change, and that is why Microsoft themselves will give this. So for production environment, you can just copy from here and paste it there. So you don't need to do anything. So currency code and name for all the currency code will be there. In case if you try to create duplicate, for example, AFN is there. So if I again try to create AFN, system will throw error. It says AFN already exists. So let's say click save. It will not allow me to create a duplicate record. So the record already exists. So you will not be able to create once it's already created. If it's already there, you will not be able to create that currency again because that already exists. So like this, Microsoft has already created all the currency. So you don't need to create anything. Here you can see rounding rules. This I will cover when I come for transaction, not now. So then currency gender, this is masculine and feminine. There is no functionality as such. This is mainly in Europe. Don't know why they call it. So they have masculine and feminine. There is no functionality, but that is there. So that's how this is. So you don't need to do anything in the currency part. Just have a look at it. That should be fine. Okay. So there is this triangulation. This I will cover later. This is a good concept to understand, which we will cover later part. So that's about currency. And as I told you, currency is also global. So you can see for all the legal entities, this is the currencies. So how does the system understand for my legal entity which currency it has to pick? That we will see later, which we have not yet created. So that's for today's session. So let me quickly brief of what we did today. So we started with creating legal entity. So let me go to system itself. So to create legal entity, you will go to organization and administration. under organization administration, organization, legal entity. So this is where you create legal entities. When you create legal entity, you will give a name and you will give company code, which is 4-digit alphanumeric. Then you will add the localized functionality. So localized functionality is a key concept because based on that only all the forms will be loaded for that particular legal entity, and you cannot change that once you start posting transaction. So that's why it's important to have a proper setup with regards to localized functionality. Then you can add the address, primary flag to be yes. So based on the primary flag yes, for my reporting, wherever the company address is required, it will pick the address and update automatically. Then you have registration ID. If you need any registration ID that needs to be updated, you can use the registration IDs. So then we created number sequence, which is also here. So as I told you, number sequence is basically a unique ID for every record we create in D365. So initially we're going to use the generate option to generate number sequence. So when we generate number sequence, it will use the company code as an example, or it will take that as the code and default to all the number sequence wherever it's required for every module, and later we can modify based on requirement. So after number sequence, we went to GL module. So in the general ledger module, we understood the concept of global and legal entity specific. When I say global, all the setup that you create under global can be shared between multiple legal entities. So that is why when you create, there's a second step to that, that is you need to assign. So you can assign to just one legal entity, or you can assign to multiple legal entity. If you assign to one legal entity, it will be specific to that legal entity, or if you assign to multiple legal entities, it will be available for multiple legal entities. Then we have a concept of legal entity specific. That is when you create any setup which is legal entity specific, that you don't need to assign anything, that is anyway dedicated to that particular legal entity. Then we went to calendar, fiscal calendar, which is nothing but a financial year of a company. So financial year can be created under fiscal calendar. So once a calendar is created, if you want to add a new year, just click on this new year. New year can be added to the existing calendar. So after that, we understood the concept of currency. So we have three kinds of currency: accounting currency, reporting currency, and transaction currency. For accounting and mandatory, you can do, sorry, accounting and reporting, you can do setup. For transaction, at that particular transaction, whatever currency you use, that will become the transaction currency. So for accounting, currency is a mandatory without which you will not be able to complete the setup. Reporting currency is an optional. If you have a reporting currency, you can update. Otherwise, you can leave reporting currency as blank. So when you post a transaction, if accounting and reporting is updated from transaction currency, it will convert to accounting and reporting based on the exchange rate. So we will see the exchange rate later. If there is no reporting, then reporting column will be blank. Now that's the currency, and as I told you, when you create a currency, ISO, the code will come from the ISO, International Standard Organization. So Microsoft has already picked from there and updated all the currency, so that you can just refer there and copy and take it and use it for the production environment as well. So these are the three setups that we have seen today. So any question before we wind up?
One question regarding the number sequence.
Mhm.
Is this a standard practice in the real working environment to use only the automated number sequence creation?
Yes, that is what we will do it, because as I told you, there are hundreds of number sequence. So you will generate, and after generating, wherever changes required, you will go and modify those changes.
Suppose I've only 20 number sequence to create, let's say for account payable, for a respective module.
Okay.
Do I still need to automatically create it?
Yes, you
Was
need
it
to generate it. See, you need to generate irrespective of whatever it is, because there are some internal document Microsoft will post automatically. So for that, you will no client will give the format. So if you don't generate, you will miss on those things and you will end up with issues. So you will always generate, and wherever changes is required, you can either do it manually or you can do bulk upload. But still, you need to generate irrespective of it.
so generation is the recommended practice, right? Best practice.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. If no question, thanks everyone. Let's catch up Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.